Hey everybody, it's Atheist for the Cause here, and we have some bullshit to dispel here, so let's get to it.
In case anyone has forgotten,
First, let's look at the title. I always gotta look at the title. Trump's legal team argues that sexual harassment is protected by First Amendment. Now, do you really think that's what they're arguing? But anyways, you know that's bullshit right from the start, but, you know, let's listen.
Sitting president of the United States, Donald Trump, is still facing a sexual assault, sexual harassment lawsuit from former apprentice contestant Summer Zervos. Now, according to...
Yeah, because this isn't bullshit at all. First of all, there were a bunch of claims against Trump, allegations, before Trump was actually elected president. And once it got close to the elections, like literally days before, they dropped like all of the lawsuits pretty much. And then, you know, this one actually came up after Trump was actually elected. This one was actually filed in January, so.
To a recent argument by Donald Trump's lawyers in court in front of a judge, Donald Trump has every right to call Ms. Zervos, the woman accusing Trump of sexual assault and sexual harassment. He has every right to call her a liar.
Yeah, why wouldn't he? Yes, he has every right. Believe it or not, calling someone accusing you of sexual assault a liar is protected under the First Amendment.
Because that's his protected speech under the First Amendment. Furthermore, sexual harassment, saying things to women that they don't want to hear or that are completely inappropriate, that is also, according to Donald Trump's lawyers, protected speech under the First Amendment.
Let me go back on that one.
Things to women that they don't want to hear or that are completely inappropriate.
Yeah, when you word it this way, saying things to women that they don't want to hear or that are quote-unquote inappropriate, I mean, I could swear at a woman and she might find that inappropriate, but that wouldn't be illegal.
That is also, according to Donald Trump's lawyers, protected speech under the First Amendment of the Constitution. Here's a little bit of a legal lesson for Donald Trump's lawyers.
Oh boy. It's kind of funny how like fucking arrogant this guy is and how obviously wrong he is, but anyways.
No, it's actually not. Go take a First Amendment freedoms course at any college and you'll understand what types of speech are protected. The First Amendment does not say that every American citizen has the right to go out and say...
Okay, whatever. I just want to point something out. It says the Ring of Fire. And the Ring of Fire in the background, you can't really see it here, but it's there if you watch. In the background, it says the Ring of Fire. So, this is actually on the Young Turks channel. It looks to be that the Ring of Fire has partnered with the Young Turks. And the Young Turks are obviously bullshit. But the Ring of Fire is full of maybe more bullshit than the Young Turks, to be honest. So this is going to be a doozy of a network. You have people like Sam Cedar in the Majority Report. I mean, that show is absolutely fucking horrendous. And then you have the David Pakman show, where I would call it a little better than the Majority Report, but it's very misleading and dishonest. So this Ring of Fire network is just full of bullshit. And the Young Turks is full of bullshit, so we're just going to have one steaming pile of bullshit if these two are actually merging.
Say whatever to whomever they want. That is not how it works. All it says, basically...
Okay, so yeah, under the First Amendment, you can't say whatever to whoever you want. But nobody was claiming that. You're just like taking an argument a lawyer said and you're running with it.
Is that the federal government is not going to step in and silence you on all matters. There are certainly areas where they can come in and say, you're not allowed to say that. And sexual harassment just happens to be one of those things, because sexual...
Okay, but what determines, what sexual harassment actually is? It's not you, it's the court system would have to determine that this is actually sexual harassment.
Harassment is against the law. Trump's lawyers, I guess, clearly don't know that, and yet somehow...
What you explained wasn't sexual harassment. Now you can see the ring of fire up here, but Trump's lawyers weren't claiming that you can sexually harass, that Trump can get away with sexual harassment. I mean, you're just like taking this and running with it so far, it's not even funny.
Somehow still managed to pass the bar, allegedly. I haven't seen their diplomas. I haven't seen their...
Do you even know what the bar is? It's not a fucking diploma. There are plenty of people who have passed the bar exam without getting a diploma. In fact, I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. I was drinking a Snapple, and one of the facts was like one of our founding fathers had passed the bar exam without getting their diploma. Although he held a PhD in something else.
Their transcripts, I don't know if they actually made it, but I have to assume that they did, otherwise they wouldn't be representing him. But this particular argument shows us two things about the president. One, somehow he managed...
I'm gonna venture a guess that Trump's lawyers happen to know a little more about the law than you do, but maybe I'm crazy.
...to find attorneys who are just as big of scumbags as he is, and two,
name calling won't win you the argument.
Reminds us what kind of person won the office of the presidency.
You have not proved anything yet. You have not proved that he's a sexual harasser or anything to that extent. And you're assuming his guilt basically because he is accused. And that's just total bullshit.
Now, if you think back to the 1990s, when Republicans were up in arms over the fact that Bill Clinton may or may not have had an affair while in the office.
What do you mean may or may not? Monica Lewinsky clearly gave him a blowjob. I mean, what the hell are you talking about? This obviously happened.
He may or may not have had an affair before coming into office, talking about how...
And we're just going to ignore, all the actual rape accusations against him, where he brought a woman he had her go up to a room, and then she claims that he held her down and bit her lip, and she goes into some detail about how he has a biting lip fetish, or a biting fetish, and other things to that extent. So, and there were, during the campaign, Trump had brought forth 4 different accusers. So, you don't have to buy all these arguments against Clinton, but if the accusations are there and have been there for a long time, and the thing about Bill Clinton's accusations, they've been there, for decades. It's not like they just made this up around election time. Like, Trump's accusers just came forward, around right before he was elected, and then another one right after he was elected. Kind of interesting political timing, isn't it? So maybe they're telling the truth, maybe they're not. Everybody deserves their day in court, but you obviously have a double standard where you believe the accusers against Trump just because they're accusing him, and then you don't believe the accusers against Bill Clinton. It's like, even with Monica Lewinsky, where it's pretty much clear cut that sexual stuff happened. You're like, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. I mean, come on, man.
How deplorable this was, how reprehensible.
And keep in mind, he had a position of authority over her. that was part of the problem too. It wasn't just that Bill Clinton was cheating. He had a position of authority over Monica Lewinsky.
Reprehensible it was for the office of the president. I get that to an extent, I guess. But our current president...
Notice how dismissive all of a sudden he is of these accusations as soon as they're against the other side. Even though he brings them up, he's pretty dismissive of them. I guess maybe there's something that could have happened there.
The president is literally being sued for sexual assault and sexual harassment.
Is he? Let's go take a look. Trump claims immunity from apprentice contestants lawsuit. Okay. This is back in March 28th of 2017. Kind of interesting that this is all coming up in July, but President Trump's private attorneys asserted in court this week that he should be immune from a defamation lawsuit filed against him because of his presidential duties. Summer Zervos, a former contestant from The Apprentice, sued Trump in New York on January 17th, just days before the inauguration. Remember, that's post-election. Even though it's pre-inauguration, it's post-election, which happened in November. She came forward in October and accused Trump of kissing and groping her in a Beverly Hills hotel room in 2007. Trump denied the accusation, including a series of tweets calling the sexual misconduct allegations 100% fabricated and made up charges. Totally false and totally made up nonsense. Zervos' attorney, Gloria Allred, just a women's rights feminist attorney. I would call her more of a feminist attorney than a women's rights attorney, because all she does is push. She has a long history of pushing this bullshit, and her daughter, she was, had a hand, I would say, too, and Lisa Bloom, who helped defend or represent, I should say, Kathy Gifford and the beheading Trump. Lisa Bloom is Gloria Allred's daughter. A lot of people don't know that. And all they do is come in. You know how it was really weird that Kathy Griffin tried to use this, like, Trump is bullying me, I'm a woman, and made herself to be the victim? That's all these people know how to do. If they have the same thing, the woman's the victim no matter what, and the man's always the perpetrator, and a lot of the, we should just believe these people. And it's just completely bullshit a lot of times. But you know what? Maybe this is one that isn't bullshit. So let's keep reading. Zervos' attorney, Gloria Allred, demanded a retraction to no avail. If there was something to it, why wouldn't he retract his statement or whatever so that he couldn't get sued? No, he stood on his statement on principle. So she sued. It's not like this is a money grab or anything, right? Or politically motivated. Zervos' lawsuit claims the alleged defamation was detrimental to Ms. Zervos' reputation, honor, and dignity. Oh, so she sued for defamation. She had accused Trump of sexual assault or sexual misconduct, but she actually sued for defamation because he said those claims were false that she was making about him. Quite interesting, isn't it? This guy can't even get his facts fucking straight.
Where are all those Newt Gingrich Republicans today decrying this, saying that this is reprehensible for a president to do these kinds of things? And it's not as if we didn't know.
You can get just about everybody lined up in the entire United States to say it's not acceptable for anybody to commit sexual assault or sexual harassment of other people. But what that sexual assault or sexual harassment means, what constitutes sexual assault or sexual harassment, is open to great interpretation. And, there's a lot of people who don't agree with you that President Trump actually committed these crimes that you're talking about. These are just allegations. Remember, you have not proved them true yet.
No.
And the lawsuit isn't even about the allegations of sexual assault. So it's about defamation.
Trump literally told this country that this is what he does. This is how he operates. That's what that...
No, he literally did not say that at all.
Leaked Access Hollywood tape was all about. Donald Trump...
He did not literally say anything like you just claimed. Now, he did use a colloquial phrase, and he did have some locker room banter, if you want to call it that. And you can have an argument whether that was appropriate or not or whatever, but there's no clear indication that that's actually talking about specific instances where he went around and did that.
Trump is a serial sexual...
And, I mean, we could go through the video quite a bit, or the audio, but basically, he does talk about getting consent in that video alone. He said that in that video, he said that he was disappointed in one because, he was courting this woman and she wasn't interested, and, so he felt kind of down about it because, he liked her. So why would someone, get down about being rejected if they don't ask for approval?
Harasser by his own...
No, he's not a serial sexual harasser by his own admission. And this is like borderline defamation. Really is.
Admission. And yet Republican voters, those conservative Christian voters who allegedly have more...
Oh, yep. Gotta attack the Christians now. Gotta get that in.
Morals and values than the rest of us, at least that is what they claim, see no problem with this whatsoever. They also see...
I'm pretty sure Christians have all kinds of different claims, and that there's a lot of them that aren't have a feeling of superiority or anything. I know a lot of Christians, and I'm an atheist, and I think your argument's bullshit, where a lot of Christians think that it's up to God to judge, not them to judge. But they have an interpretation of the Bible that claims certain things. If you don't follow the Bible a certain way, then you're not morally bankrupt, but you are committing sin. But I mean, that doesn't mean they all sit and judge people, necessarily. Some of them do, some of them don't.
No problem with Donald Trump and his fellow Republicans who do this on a daily basis, blaming the victim here, calling her a liar, saying she's just out to get famous. How dare she?
Okay, well, I mean, he's actually a part of this situation. He knows what happened. So it's not like some third party or something. He's got a right to defend himself. If he's being falsely accused, then he's the victim. If she was never raped or sexually assaulted by Trump, and she says that Trump sexually assaulted her, then he is the victim, not her. So you're saying she's the victim just because she's the accuser, or just because she's the woman, or what? This is complete BS.
She do this? Why is it that in this country we always give the benefit of the doubt in any case of sexual harassment, sexual assault, or rape? The benefit of the doubt always goes to the man.
No, it goes to the accused, because you have to actually prove it happened. I mean, you don't have to prove it didn't happen, because it's basically impossible to prove something didn't happen. And, you can find evidence of something happening, much easier. So it makes sense because we don't live in, the 1400s to say, hey, we're only going to lock people up and take away their freedom if we can actually prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they did something. I mean, if I say, hey, you raped me, prove it wrong. Oh, you can't? You're getting locked up. For what? Decades, possibly. How is that moral or ethical of any at all? That's like completely unreasonable.
It's up to the woman to prove.
No, it's up to the accuser, because guess what? Men can be victims of rape and sexual assault too, and they can accuse people as well.
Prove beyond a doubt that these things happened.
Beyond a reasonable doubt, yes, and it's not them, it's the prosecutor.
She never gets the trust of the media. I mean, we have.
What? Are you fucking kidding me? How about Virginia? Rolling Stones. Sabrina Erdely, or however you say her name. She went and, like, literally believed whatever she was told. And she didn't do follow-up. I mean, there's a whole feminist establishment that is set out to push a policy of believing accusers without evidence. In this university system, consistently, accusers are believed before any sort of evidence, and then people go and look into it. Sometimes the police, if they go to the police, but if it's at the university system, then the university looks into it. A lot of times the man can't even have legal representation when a woman's accusing a man of sexual assault. So a woman accusing a man of rape or sexual assault is consistently believed.
I've seen too many white.
And this, by the way, this is a very dangerous narrative that he's pushing. That's very important to realize, because he's saying that what he's telling women is if you go and you tell people, they won't believe you. So if you get sexually assaulted or raped, don't go tell anybody, because they're not going to believe you anyways. That's what he's telling people, and it's a fucking lie. And he claims to want to help them. No, how about you tell the truth and say, people, if you go to the police or you go to the university system, overwhelmingly, people will believe you. There, some slip through the cracks. Not everybody's always believed, but for the most part, people will believe you. They will investigate, and, based on evidence they can uncover, they'll either go after the man or not. Rarely usually they stay completely anonymous, the accuser does, and rarely ever do they face any repercussions if it's a false accusation or anything like that.
She never gets the trust of the media. I mean, we have seen too many white guys get away with this kind of behavior for too long.
Oh, now I gotta throw in the race. You gotta get the whole progressive stack in here. What does being white have anything to do with this?
Usually athletes. They come from wealthy families.
Okay, first of all, if you're going to say usually athletes, you're talking about a very, very small percentage of people. Because not a lot of people are athletes. Especially at like a university level. Now, second of all, you're talking athletes tend to come from, at least extensively, poor backgrounds, troubled backgrounds. They don't, it's not that there's no rich athletes or athletes that come from rich backgrounds, but there's an extensive demographic that is not rich at all. And it's like one of the ways that people at the bottom, the very poor, can make it filthy rich by becoming athletes.
They're going to make a ton of money. Judges that tell us, well, I don't want to sentence.
And by the way, also, just to point out, like, most athletes won't go and become filthy rich. I'd also like to point that out. It's like 0.1%. It's something like less than 1% of all college athletes turn pro. So, and becoming a college athlete is like 1% of high school athletes. It's a ridiculously low number that actually turns pro.
Sentence him for rape because that's going to ruin his life forever. Sorry you got raped and you're going to live with that.
Or, it's determined that there's no evidence or not enough evidence that the rape actually occurred, and sexual assault is not necessarily the same thing as rape. So, and keep in mind, this lawsuit actually isn't about sexual assault, it's about defamation. So you're so far from this lawsuit, it's not even funny.
That PTSD of being raped for the rest of your life, but I don't want to screw up his life too, even though he ruined yours. And that's exactly what we elected into the White House, folks. That is
sometimes stuff like that does happen, and that's bullshit. With like Brock Turner, was it his name, the swimmer, where like they said he was too rich or something like that, and from too rich of an area that he'd get too negatively impacted, and he was basically a swimmer and all that kind of stuff. But that's very, very rare, and when it happens, there's outrage, like tons of outrage about it. It got national attention. And, even men's rights activists were saying, yeah, this is bullshit. And we try to protect the falsely accused, but we also try to protect rape victims when it's a legitimate rape. And in that case, it was a legitimate rape, and he definitely should have gotten some time for it. But you're really cherry picking a very small number of cases here. And you're not mentioning the cases specifically, but it's pretty clear what type of case you're referring to.
Exactly what Donald Trump is. The worst case of affluenza that this country has ever seen. A man who lives his life without consequence. A man.
To this point, you have not proven he's guilty. You still have not, of sexual assault, let alone rape, and you still haven't brought up the fact, and this video is over, that he actually isn't even getting sued for that. He's getting sued for defamation because he claimed that her claims were false. So apparently defending yourself and saying, hey, when you're accused of a crime, saying I didn't commit that crime and you're lying, apparently now that's defamation. See, in my eyes, what they're doing here is this is most likely bullshit. And that's why they're not going after him for the criminal charge. They're going after him for defamation because it would get her money, and it would give the political hit, yet it would drop down to a preponderance of evidence instead of beyond reasonable doubt, because they know they can't win beyond a reasonable doubt, especially if it's made up. So, and they could be hoping for a settlement too, But it's kind of amazing how many of these cases went away. And, without a settlement or anything, the cases just got dropped after being brought up and getting national attention. It just makes no sense. So, and, this one was brought up after the election, and it's defamation. Come on. So that's all I've got for you guys for now. The Ring of Fire, if they're really partnering with the Young Turks, it's just more evidence that the Young Turks is corporatizing independent media, and they're buying out or merging or whatever they're doing. I'll have to look into it more, but with other networks, that's bad for independent media, and that should throw up all kinds of red flags if you're a fan of independent media. So I'll talk to you guys later, and there's going to be plenty more to come from the Young Turks because they just keep on giving tons of bullshit. So have a good one, guys.